Hello, everyone. Welcome to this special edition of Go There on Fourth. Go There on Fourth being Go There on Fourth Down. This is a Christian video podcast about faith, football, and fantasy football. And yes, the fantasy football season is over. But I'm Pastor Jason, and I'm here to give you my playoff thoughts. I'm also known as the Dirt Path Pastor. I have daily devotional videos that I do on TikTok and things like that. I have the Dirt Path Sermon podcast where my sermons are shared, but this one is about my favorite sport to watch, the one I enjoy the most, which is football. So like I said, I'm going to be making my playoff predictions. I'm going to be sharing my thoughts on the current coach openings and also announcing which bandwagon I am going to be hopping on. Most of you know I am a Colts fan. I mean, I'm wearing a Colts hoodie right now, but my Colts didn't make the playoffs. That's an understatement. They are picking in the top 5 picks. But that's exciting. But since they didn't make the playoffs, I have to figure out which team am I going to be temporarily cheering for. So which bandwagon am I going to be hitching my own wagon to? So let's just jump right in for the wild card weekend since the games are coming up pretty quick this afternoon. So here are the Saturday games. First up, we have the Seahawks versus the 49ers. I love how the Seahawks have responded to the whole Russell Wilson change. I love how they're responding to Geno Smith. I love how Geno Smith's playing. I love his attitude as he's been playing. And I really don't like when teams are facing each other for the third time in a season. There's actually several games like that. The Dolphins and Bills facing each other for the third time. The Ravens and the Bengals, third time. I don't like those matchups. It's hard to beat any team once in the NFL. It's even more difficult to beat them 3 times. And especially a divisional opponent. Those teams just know each other way too well. But that being said, I'm picking the 49ers over the Seahawks. I just think the 49ers have a lot more there. So 49ers over the Seahawks today. Also today is the game I think is the game of the week. This is the game that should be the Monday night game. It's the Chargers versus the Jaguars. I think these teams match up really well. 2 young quarterbacks. 2 teams that are on the up and up. They're maturing, they're growing. They're playing. The Jaguars are really hot of late. The Chargers, they're battling been battling injuries all year long, but they keep finding ways to churn out wins. I think this is the game of the weekend, but I am picking the Jaguars in this one. Doug Peterson has that team playing really, really well. I mean, think about it. This team was a bottom of a barrel team last year. I think they only won 3 games with Urban Meyer as the coach, but that just tells you how much coaching makes a difference even at the NFL level. And the Jaguars seem to have responded. It took a little bit while to get adjusted, but they're playing much better. So I'm picking the Jaguars over the Chargers today. All right, tomorrow's games, the Sunday ones. We have the Dolphins versus the Bills. The Dolphins, they have limped their way into the playoffs. Give them credit. They've made it in. I just think the Bills are playing. They're a good team playing with extra motivation right now. What happened to Hamlin was absolutely awful. But to me, to see the nation come together, see us as football fans come together and lift up Hamlin in our prayers and our thoughts, and just kind of that was an awesome moment, not just for football, but how we all came together. But as far as what happened to him, that was terrifying. But I think that's given the Bills some extra motivation to go out and play their hearts and their guts out. And they got the Dolphins, who are struggling right now with some uncertainty at the quarterback position. So I'm picking the Bills in this one. Giants versus the Vikings. The Vikings have been living off of beating people by 1 possession all season long. They've been playing just skating by each and every week. Here they are in the playoffs. But they have all the makings to me of a one-and-done squad. I mean, at the same time, too, the dangerous in saying that is they've been finding ways to get it done in these close games all season long. So what would stop them from doing that in the playoffs? The danger is in the playoffs, all it takes is 1 mistake down the stretch and you're in trouble. And if you've been watching some of these games, yes, Kirk Cousins has played amazing at stretches in the tight months, but he's also thrown a lot of interceptions and made some mistakes too, that the team has just been able to somehow survive. But in the playoffs, it's different. So I'm actually picking the Giants to upset the Vikings in round 1. So that's my big gamble pick of the opening wild card weekend. Then the late game today is the Ravens versus the Bengals. I'm picking the Bengals to win this one. They are a hot team with the motivation of how the league has handled them, right? The league kind of had to change its own rules in order to adjust what happened. And I'll give the Bengals and their fans a lot of credit. You all showed a lot of class. You all did the right thing. But you know what they say sometimes. Sometimes the good deeds, there's no good deed that, good deeds don't go unpunished, right? And so you did the right thing, and the league kind of hosed you. Now, in fairness, Goodell, when the league went to make their announcements, did say that there was no perfect scenario and that it was going to upset someone, and the Bengals were the someone. But I think that's extra motivation for them, that the team that's already hot, already playing really well here lately. So I'm picking the Bengals in this one. Then the Monday night game, the last game of the wild card round. It's the Cowboys versus the Buccaneers. Hey, if you've listened to this podcast at all, you know I am not a Cowboys fan. Matter of fact, I shared with you, my son was on the Cowboys flag football team, and I couldn't even bring myself to go Cowboys then. But there's something that has given me a little bit of a reason to cheer for the Cowboys, that they picked up T.Y. Hilton, longtime Colts wide receiver, beloved by fans, beloved by his teammates. T.Y., I'm glad to see you back on the field. I hate that it's a Cowboys jersey, but guess what? I will cheer for T.Y. no matter what team he is on. So if the Cowboys somehow win this game, I will keep cheering for T.Y. I love to see T.Y. get a ring before it's all said and done. I know it doesn't always work out for the players that deserve a Super Bowl win to get one, but if there's a player that deserves it more than T.Y. from the Colts anyway, I don't know who that is. T.Y., we, as Colts fans, we appreciate all your hard work and your effort that you've put in throughout your career for us, and being the leader in the locker room. So with that said, though, as much as I love T.Y. being on the Cowboys, I don't think they beat the Buccaneers. It's still the Cowboys in the playoffs. The Buccaneers are experienced. They won a Super Bowl not that long ago. They got Tom Brady. Yes, they are not the team they used to be, but it's still the Cowboys in round one of the playoffs. So those are my wild card weekend picks. Those games are a little bit more established, a little bit more set up. I'll get into my overall playoff prediction here in just a moment. But first, let me pause and talk to you about our current NFL job openings. And I'm going to rank them from worst to best. All right. At number 5, the worst job opening that's available, I'm putting the Houston Texans. Yes, they have the number 2 pick, but this team has been a dumpster fire of late. Think about it. They just traded Deshaun Watson, and who knows how much of that was to cover up what they knew what was going on. And they really played terrible. Then they fired Lovie Smith, who I think just was the scapegoat for their terrible season. What was he supposed to do? You traded the quarterback, who probably wasn't going to play anyway. A roster they have some pieces there, but that's maybe not as talented as it could be. In some ways, I think the Texans may be becoming the new Browns, which is saying something. But then again, no one out Browns. So the Texans. I think this is, even though they have a number 2 pick, I think are the worst job opening that's out there, because the organization just met. Job opening, I have the Cardinals. Why? Can you work with Kyler Murray? It's obvious Kyler Murray is the one steering that ship. They are sold as him being their quarterback, and him continuing to be their quarterback and playing Call of Duty at the same time. And the reason why I put this as the number 4 opening is so you have to answer the question of, can they work with Kyler Murray? But for how, the question from there becomes is, how long will Kyler Murray work with the coach? That's the other side of it. So because it's obvious Kyler Murray is the one that they're trying to build this thing around. He is the cog to the machine. And so, if Kyler Murray does not like you as the coach or changes his mind about you later, I just think that's a dangerous approach, right? When any player has that much ability to dictate who the coach is, especially one that to me doesn't seem that they're as dedicated to the team as they should be. But that's number 4. Number 3, I've put the Broncos. I really wanted to put the Broncos lower. But the one thing I know about this, I lived out in the Denver area. I lived out in Colorado for a while. And there's one thing I know about Denver Broncos fans is they will not tolerate a losing product. They are not an organization that's used to being at the bottom of the barrel, right? I think I think there's a lot of questions about Russell Wilson. Was this just an off year for Wilson, trying to adjust to a new city, new environment? Was he not meshing well with the system? Was he not meshing well with his teammates? Was he not meshing well with the coach? Was the coach really the issue? Those are questions that I can't answer. Part of me thinks that maybe Wilson was just a product of the Pete Carroll Seahawks system. As you know, Geno Smith stepped in, and he's put up very similar numbers to Russell Wilson. Not knocking what Geno's done. It's been awesome and fun to watch Geno Smith step in and kind of rise to the occasion. But again, a lot of questions here around the Broncos. But the good thing about the Broncos is they still have a good defense, and I think there's still some pieces on offense that if they can figure out how to get them to work together, the ball together, perspective to be a lot much worse. But I have the Broncos as the third best opening of the five. Number 2, I have the Carolina Panthers. I mean, yes, that division, the NFC South, is a dumpster fire right now. Nobody was really that great. As poorly as they played, and as with turnover at the quarterback position, they had all this job being a threat down the stretch to the Buccaneers. And I have this listed as number 2 position opportunity because they're in a weak division, a division that's kind of retooling, rebuilding a little bit. Pretty much all 4 teams are. So this is a coach that can really shape that. There's still some questions at the quarterback position. How do you go about adjusting that and fixing that? We'll see moving forward. Now, I will say this. I do think still Steve Wilks deserves an opportunity to interview for this job and possibly get it, because obviously the players responded to him. They followed his leadership. So what can they do? His full system and things like that. Well, you have to kind of see to find out. But I do think the Panthers are an attractive organization, an unattractive job. And number 1, and this is because of my bias. Maybe we'll just say that's what it is. But I think the Colts are the top job that's available. Yes, I know they massively underperformed. Yes, there are questions on the offensive line, but the offensive line did start looking better down the stretch. JT was hurt most of this season, but now he's going to have a whole season to get better. We had that defense that played outstanding all year long. I mean, yes, they blew the lead versus Dallas, and they blew some leads down the stretch, but ultimately your defense gets tired from being on the field all the time when your offense is as bad as the Colts offense was. But obviously there's some pieces in the receiver room. We saw, we have Pittman Jr., Pierce, he's only going to get better with an offseason now with the full season, and now the offseason now coming up. Paris Campbell was able to play a full season, and there was a stat saying that he led the Colts in yards of separation on his route running. His confidence is only going to improve from here. I think Jelani Woods is going to get more playing time with whoever steps in as the coach. And the most attractive thing about the Colts job is you have all those other pieces, but now you have a top 5 pick. You have a number 4 pick in the draft to take the quarterback your quarterback of the future. And let's stop all this nonsense about Derek Carr coming to the Colts. No, the answer is we've tried the veteran thing time and again, and it has not worked. Let's try what has worked for us in the past. That's drafting a quarterback. We drafted Peyton Manning. We drafted Andrew Luck. And I know Colts fans, it hurts to talk about Andrew Luck being drafted because of the way it went down. But he played his guts out for us. And he was making improvements every year until the injuries just caught up to him. I think we take another chance on a young quarterback. The quarterback I wanted was Stroud, but I guess reports are saying that he's decided to stay at Ohio State. So be it. But let's take a young quarterback to build around. Let's get a coach that is willing to work with a young rookie quarterback and allow them to grow. And I'm not talking about take a quarterback that you need to sit on the bench and let develop. No, let's find a rookie quarterback that we can put in and maybe struggle with for a season. But that ultimately will make us better down the road. So those are my takes. That's my take, my rankings of the current NFL coach openings. I'm sure there'll be some surprise openings in the next couple of days following the wild card exits. And as we're going through the playoffs, so it's either coaches stepping away or being told to step away or deciding, we don't know what's going to happen moving forward, but time will tell us after this weekend. Moving on to the division round, I told you who my AFC, NFC wildcard picks were. Now, the way I understand how the playoffs work is the number 1 seed plays the lowest remaining seed, right? That's the way this bracket's set up. So based on my wild card predictions, that means in the AFC, the Jaguars will be playing the Chiefs in the divisional round. And as hot as the Jaguars have been, as well coaches they've been, the Jaguars have been by Doug Peterson. And while I think the Jaguars' future is bright in a division that's struggling, this is the first trip to the playoffs on many trips to the playoffs, but this one's going to end facing Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. They're playing the Chiefs. They'll be playing the Chiefs at Arrowhead. I like the Chiefs in that one. Bengals at Bills. I was playing with some extra emotional energy because of everything that happened with him. But I do think emotional energy will run out at some point. And it's going to be skill versus skill. It's going to be
make it into the AFC Championship. So that means the AFC Championship, my prediction for the AFC Championship game
will be
at the Chiefs. Bengals versus the Chiefs.
All right, move over to the NFC. Like I predicted, the Giants are going to upset the Vikings. And then they're going to move on to face the Eagles. And I just think the Eagles are a better team. I think the Eagles will take out the Giants in the round and the divisional round and move on to the NFC Championship game. Then it's the Buccaneers at the 49ers. And remember what happened last time? The 49ers absolutely thrashed the Buccaneers. Do I think that's going to happen again? No. That's just not common in the NFL. Too much film on tape now. Too much time to reflect and figure out what went wrong and figure out what to do next. But I still think the 49ers win. In the rematch, I think the 49ers send Tom Brady and the Buccaneers packing. But it will not be the beatdown that it was the first go-around. All right, like I said, this is a Christian
fantasy football for the faith aspect. I always like to kind of share it emotional as part of this podcast.
And today,
some things that kind of went on here at the Ravenna Church of the Nazarene.
we've been doing a lot. We
hosted a warming shelter a while back during
that really bad cold snap where temperatures were in the
negative.
And that we
not saying that to pass
ourselves. We're kind of to our own horn. Maybe there's a little bit of that. Me as a pastor, trying to say how proud I am to pastor a church that is that focused on its community, wanting to reach out, wanting to give back, wanting to minister to people in ways that we can. And but I'm sure those things
from having the blessing box and then
having
shelter is
kind of opened our eyes,
the church, and was that we've been missing
all there that
worry
on a daily basis. Enough
food
to eat. Not, are we gonna have not just
ourselves, but to feed our kids? Money to
pay the bills,
to have to keep the
to people that are trying to, maybe they're living on the streets, trying to find a way to change that. They have a desire to not live that way, and many of them are asking themselves the question of how did my life get to the point where I'm living? This is the way my life is, where I'm living outside, no place to call my home, where I'm trying to scrounge just to survive. And it's open. We're in a little. We live in the area. I live in Ravenna, Kentucky, which is really Ravenna and Irvine are kind of, twin cities right there next to each other. So the problems are very much the same between the two of us, the two areas. And it's not a heavily populated area. But to kind of see that those issues are right there on our doorstep was very eye-opening, not just for me as a pastor, but for many in the church. And as I was working with another gentleman in this church this week regarding some issues that have developed out of those events and none of those things we've been doing, he made the comment of, how long has this stuff been happening right in front of me, but I've just never noticed it before. And that's kind of a sobering thing to think about. How many times do we walk past somebody that's really struggling, really hurting, but we don't care enough to look and actually see them. And so I'm going to share with you a passage from the book of Acts, chapter 3. And I'm just going to read to you verses 1 through 10 here. It says, "Now Peter and John were going up to the temple for the time of prayer at 3 in the afternoon. A man was lame from birth, was being carried there. He was placed each day at the temple gate called Beautiful so that he could beg from those entering the temple." So this man was born lame. His legs didn't work. And that's a real bummer. This is not a society that had government systems to protect vulnerable people like this. His only chance at survival was to go to the place where he knew people were going to be at and beg for money. And the temple was a good place to do that. And he couldn't get there by himself. Someone actually had to come get him and take him to the temple so he could sit there and beg for something from a stranger to hope to survive. And he did this every day of his life. Every day. It doesn't tell us how old this man is. But it tells us he's done this every day of his life. How many people walk past this guy? I'm sure there's some that put money in there. I'm not saying everyone that walked past ignored him. But many did. And even the ones that walked past him, and maybe they even give him money, they probably said to themselves, I know it's something I've said to myself, and you've probably said to yourself, is yes, I can help them for this 1 second. But how does that help them moving forward? And they probably shied away because they didn't know how to help him beyond that. The task seemed too impossible, too out of reach. That wasn't until Peter and John come walking along. That's what we'll continue in verse 10. When he saw
Peter and John, these apostles of Jesus Christ,
he sees them, he asks them for money. Joke's on him. Pastors and apostles, workers of the church, we really. Anyway, when Peter and John looked straight at him and said, Peter,
John, notice him.
they don't look the other way. They don't ignore him for help.
His voice,
And they acknowledge him. And they
doesn't look at us.
So the beggar
Get
something
from him.
So he's thinking they're going to give me. And then Peter, I don't have silver.
I give
you in the name of Jesus. So you can kind of the roller coaster of a was probably feeling.
He's thinking,
oh, they might be giving. Oh, I don't have any money for you. But Peter goes on to say, I give you, but I don't have money, but I give you in the name of Jesus Christ of Nazareth, get up and walk. Peter and John notice him. They don't have money to give him, but he's been given money every day. He's obviously been getting enough money to survive up to this point. People have tried to help him, but his situation, they have not been able to help him change the situation he was in. But Peter and John notice. And Peter doesn't have the money to give him like he's thinking he's survived, but he has something to give him much money. He has the power in the name of Jesus to help this man to get up and walk, something he's never been able to do before in his life. Then Peter, as soon as he says this, takes the man by his arm.
He raised him up once to his feet.
Ankles became strong. John started walking. He entered the temple, walking, leaping, and praising God. He recognized that someone used to sit there. So they
Peter and John saw him.
And
they were able to help him in a way through the power of Jesus.
To get out of the situation. To change the status of his life. There's things. How many people? We're just too familiar with the situation. We're just too close to it. We walk past it, but we're born. If that's the case, maybe the prayer that we ask of God, God, would you open my eyes so I see the world around me as you see it?
see the needs before me.
And sometimes for God to open our eyes, we have to be willing to step out and do things like a blessing box or a warming shelter, something that might cost us a little something, but it's going to put us in a position for God to show us before our eyes what's happening. Now, we may notice what's happening around us, and maybe all we can do is provide food. Maybe all we can do is provide a temporary place for the people to come and get warm. Those things are good, and I'm not knocking those things. And let's be honest, those things are great. They keep people alive. They sustain people for a short amount of time, but it does nothing to really change the overall situation. But see, once our eyes are open to the totality of the situation, and we remember that there's nothing impossible to God, we now have to seek God's help in order to help others. Now, sometimes in order to help others, the others have to be willing to step out and help themselves. But we have to be. But if we know the situation and we know what's going on, we can help provide steps for them to change the situation, and then be patient as God is working to deal with them as they are trying to take those steps. But it all begins by us being willing to allow God to open our eyes. And once God opens our eyes, that will give us opportunity to be Jesus to people. You can find us at ravnaz.com. If you live in the area, our service at 11 a.m. Eastern time. Maybe you don't live in a place to online. You can join us at 11 a.m. Eastern on our Facebook page.
And you can also find our sermons on the Dirt
Pastor.
Also follow me on TikTok where I do daily devotional videos.
Well, close to daily.
All right, let's continue on
with my playoff predictions. All right. So I've already set up the AFC and the NFC championship games. And these are down. And so not only am I making my playoff predictions, but this also, the way my predictions are, is going to reveal to you who my team is I'm going to be cheering for throughout the playoffs. But Jason, if you're cheering for this team, that means you're biased. Yes. So be it. Okay. I'm okay with that. But so for the AFC championship game, it is the Bengals versus the Chiefs. Yes, it's at Arrowhead. Company just knows how to make the Chiefs' life miserable and do just enough to win the game. And I think that's going to happen. Those are going to. So I'm picking the Bengals and the Chiefs in the AFC Championship, and I'm over the Chiefs to go to the Super Bowl. We have the 49ers versus the Eagles. Yes, the Eagles have been playing some great football. Yes, they've kind of proven to me that they can be more physical than I thought they could be. Yes, their offense is a tough one to stop. But I think the 49ers travel all the way from San Francisco to the East Coast and Philadelphia, and they beat the Eagles in their own house. The Bengals versus the 49ers. My prediction to win the Super Bowl is the team I am pulling for. Now, I am extremely concerned. He has been playing great football. He's a rookie third-string quarterback. And I like how the Bengals have responded. Not just to what happened with Hamlin. I'm incredibly blown away by their fan base, by their coaching staff, by their players. They've been playing great football. They're going back. I think they're going to go back to Super Bowl for their second year in a row, which is rare for a losing team to even make the playoffs again, let alone go all the way back to the Super Bowl again. And to be honest, I live in an area where the Bengals are the highly favorite team by many in this area, many in my own church. It's either the Bengals or the Steelers here, which I guess I understand the Steelers a little bit, but they're not in the playoffs either, so there's no point in cheering for the Steelers either. But with that being said, I think the 49ers are the team of destiny this year. Again, that Shanahan system of offense, that 49ers system. It doesn't take a super elite quarterback to make that system work. They just need a quarterback that can get them by. And Brock Purdy's a little bit more than that. So I think the 49ers, with this rookie last pick in the draft quarterback, are going to go to the Super Bowl and beat the Bengals. And therefore, this year, the bandwagon I'm hopping on for the playoffs is the San Francisco 49ers. So I'm predicting the 49ers to win it all and go Niners. All right, well, thank you for watching this special playoff edition of Go There on Fourth. Again, be sure to check out the Dirt Pass Sermon podcast, my weekly sermon, put it on podcast form. You can find all the podcasting app. Matter of fact, you can find the Go There Fourth podcast on the Dirt Pass Sermon podcast website. Right, it's a tab on that website, so that's where you can find me if you can't find me on the podcasting apps. And this is not going to be the last bonus episode for the Go There on Fourth. There will be another bonus episode immediately following the Super Bowl. Well, some point following the Super Bowl, it would be the Super Bowl aftermath bonus episode. So stay tuned. Please like and follow the Facebook page. Share this episode with somebody new, and maybe consider leaving me a review. God bless you, and happy football.